My boyfriend of 5 years, Jianga, and I were the headlining couple for the mass wedding at our group's anniversary gala. When he perfectly caught the bridal bouquet tossed during the ceremony, he turned around and handed it to his childhood friend, Su Luoluo, who was sitting in the audience. The entire crowd started jeering and cheering, claiming they were the real match. While he simply told me not to overthink it, I turned around and snatched the microphone from the MC. No one knew that this wedding he so meticulously prepared would be the beginning of his total downfall. Inside the banquet hall of the Shengting Medical Group's anniversary gala, the crystal chandeliers were blindingly bright, a red carpet stretched from the entrance to the center of the stage, and the air was thick with the scent of champagne and roses. Today was Shengting Medical's 5th anniversary and a mass wedding hosted by the group for its employees. There were 12 couples in total, and Jianga and I were the finale. Standing by the wings of the stage, I wore a high-end white wedding dress and held a bouquet. Looking at the man beside me, clad in a bespoke black suit, Jianga looked upright and gentle, the perfect elite CEO in the eyes of outsiders and the boyfriend I had loved for 5 years. Over those 5 years, I had grown from a fresh med school graduate to the country's top cardiac surgeon. I founded Shengting's cardiac surgery center from scratch, taking an obscure private hospital department and turning it into a top-tier medical facility. Half of the reputation and market value Shengting Medical enjoyed today was built through the surgeries I performed. One by one, everyone said Jianga was lucky to have a girlfriend who was both a moneymaker and a skilled technician, but only I knew that over these 5 years he had begun to take my contributions for granted. After I'd finished 10 consecutive surgeries and collapse from exhaustion, he'd offer a hollow tough work before turning around to take his childhood friend Su Luoluo on a vacation abroad. He used the minimally invasive technology one developed to secure funding, claiming it was the result of Shengting's team research while never mentioning my name. He played the role of the devoted boyfriend in public but would stand me up on our 5th anniversary just because Su Luoluo said she was in a bad mood. It wasn't that I didn't feel wronged, but every time he coaxed me with soft words saying Su Luoluo was just a younger sister he grew up with, my heart would soften. I always felt that after 5 years he must have a place for me in his heart. Until today, until this mass wedding. The MC called out our names with a smile, and the spotlight instantly hit us. Jianga took my hand and led me onto the stage. Thunderous applause erupted from the employees, partners, and media reporters. After a flurry of blessings, the MC shouted to the crowd, "Next, we're going to toss the bouquet that symbolizes happiness. Let's see who the lucky winner is." The assistant brought the bouquet over, and the MC handed it to Jianga with a grin. "President Jiang, why don't you toss this bouquet and pass the happiness on to our friends below?" Jianga took the flowers, smiled at the crowd and raised his arm as if to throw. The young women in the audience shrieked, reaching out their hands, but the next second everyone froze. Jianga didn't toss the flowers. Instead, he gripped the bouquet and walked straight off the stage, cutting through the crowd to the front row. He stopped in front of a girl in a white dress. It was Su Luoluo. She sat there with red eyes, looking up at him like a kicked puppy. Jianga leaned down and personally handed the bouquet, the symbol of marriage and happiness, to her. His voice was so tender it could melt. "Luoluo, don't cry. Here, take these, you'll be happy too." Su Luoluo took the flowers, looked at him and nodded as tears rolled down her face. The room went dead silent for 2 seconds before erupting into a frenzy. Someone started chanting "Get together," and soon the guests joined in. The applause, whistling and shouts of "Together, together" were loud enough to blow the roof off the hall. All eyes were on Jianga and Su Luoluo as if they were the match made in heaven. Completely forgetting the bride still standing on stage in her wedding gown, I stood in the center of the stage, the spotlight still burning over me. The cheers from below felt like needles piercing my ears. I squeezed the bride's flowers in my hand until they were deformed. I gripped the fabric of my dress until it was deeply wrinkled. 5 years of love had become the biggest joke in the room. A few minutes later, Jianga finally walked back onto the stage to my side. He didn't even look at me. He just waved at the crowd to quiet them down, then turned to me with a slight frown of impatience. He said dismissively, "Luoluo was in a bad mood today. I was just comforting her. It's just a bouquet for a sister. Don't overthink it. Don't overthink it." 3 simple words that acted like a blade, completely shattering my 5-year obsession. I looked at him, at the face I had loved for so long, and suddenly found it incredibly foreign, incredibly disgusting. I laughed, laughing so hard that tears almost came out. Then I turned and snatched the microphone from the stunned MC. The cheering stopped instantly, all eyes returned to me. I gripped the mic and looked at the thousands of eyes in the audience. My voice was clear and calm as it echoed through the speakers to every corner of the hall. Honored guests, friends from the media, hello, I am Lin Zai. I am here to officially announce two things. First, as of this moment, Jianga Chen and I are officially broken up. The engagement is off. Second, effective immediately, I am resigning as the director of the Cardiac Surgery Center, chief surgeon, and from all positions within the Shengting Medical Group. The moment I finished, the room went deathly quiet. You could have heard a pin drop. A few seconds later, the place descended into chaos. Reporters surged forward like madmen, their camera flashes strobing so fast they nearly blinded the stage. Guests whispered frantically, faces full of shock, unable to believe what they had just heard. Jianga Chen's face froze. He whipped his head around to look at me, his eyes full of disbelief and burgeoning rage. He hissed in a low growl, Lin Zai, are you crazy? Do you have any idea what you're doing? I looked at him, a mocking smile tugging at my lips. Into the microphone I added, word by word, oh, and one more thing, starting today, I am terminating all exclusive licenses to Shengting Medical for the 4 patents I developed for minimally invasive cardiac surgery. If Shengting Medical uses any of my patented technology without my permission, I will file suit and pursue full legal accountability. With that, I tossed the mic back to the dumbfounded MC, reached up to rip off my veil and threw it on the ground. Picking up the skirt of my wedding dress, I walked off the stage. Step by step, leaving that glittering, nauseating banquet hall behind. Behind me came Jianga Chen's furious roar, the chaotic screams of the crowd, and the shouting of reporters. I didn't look back, not even once, as I walked out of the hotel doors. The evening breeze hit my face. It was chilly, but it made me feel incredibly sober. Jianga Chen, 5 years of feelings ends here. Everything you owe me, I will take back bit by bit. You think I'm nothing without you, just wait, I'll make sure you realize that. What you threw away today was the only ace up your sleeve you'll ever have. The moment I stepped out, my assistant and head surgical nurse, Chinran, pulled up in a car. She pushed the door open, seeing me in my wedding dress, her eyes instantly turning red. Sister Zai, I saw everything. That scumbag Jianga Chen is a total piece of work. I got into the car, shed the heavy wedding dress, and changed into the casual clothes Chinran had prepared for me. I spoke up, it's fine, it's over, notify all doctors at the attending level and above in cardiac surgery, meeting at my private apartment at 8:00 p.m. Everyone must be there, I have a major announcement. Chinran blinked, then her eyes lit up. She nodded vigorously. Got it, Sister Zai, I'll notify them right now. Chinran had been with me for 5 years, moving from an intern nurse to the head of the OR. She was the person I trusted most, and the person who knew best exactly who had been carrying Shengting's cardiac surgery department on their back. The car moved forward toward my private apartment. I had bought this place myself and never let Jianga Chen stay there. Now it was my only retreat. Just as I finished showering and changing, my phone started ringing frantically. It was Jianga Chen. I picked up. On the other end was his voice, suppressed with rage and gritted teeth. Lin Zai, what the hell are you trying to do? Do you know how much face you made me lose back there? Get your ass back here right now and explain to everyone that you were just throwing a tantrum. Apologize to me and I'll act like this never happened. I leaned back on the sofa and smiled. My tone was flat. Jianga Chen, did you not hear what I said on stage? We're done. I resigned. Also, the person who should be apologizing is you. Me apologize. Jianga Chen let out a roar as if he had heard the funniest joke in the world. Lin Zai, don't push your luck, it was just a bouquet for Luo Luo. Is all this drama really necessary? Don't forget who gave you the platform to become who you are today. Without Shengting, without me, you'd be nothing but an ordinary doctor. Who would even know the name Lin Zai? Without me, Shengting's cardiac surgery center would be nothing but an empty shell. I replied, my voice ice cold. Jianga Chen, get one thing straight, you didn't make me, I made Shengting. And I made you. Fine, fine. Jianga Chen was trembling with rage as he spat out a threat. Lin Zai, you want to get lost? Fine, get lost then, but let me tell you, once you walk out that door today. Don't even think about coming back. I'm putting the word out across the entire private medical industry. Anyone who dares to hire Lin Zai is an enemy of Shengting Medical. I want to see what kind of name you can make for yourself without me. When you regret this, don't come crawling back on your knees begging for mercy. Don't worry, I won't regret a thing, I said before hanging up. I immediately blacklisted his number and blocked him on WeChat, DingTalk, and every other platform at 8:00 p.m. My private apartment was packed. All 12 lead surgeons from the core team of Shengting's cardiac surgery center were there. Not a single person was missing. These were doctors I had trained personally, some following me for 3 years, others for 5. We had performed every high-difficulty surgery at Shengting together. As I walked in, everyone stood up, their eyes filled with indignation and a sense of injustice. Director Lin, President Jiang went too far. We saw what happened at the wedding. Today, he doesn't deserve you. Director Lin, we're with you. Whatever you decide, we'll do it. Exactly, without you we wouldn't be where we are today. You built Shengting's cardiac surgery from the ground up while Jiang did nothing but play boss. A wave of warmth swept through me. I took the head seat and spoke. I called you here for one reason. I have officially broken up with Jiang and resigned from Shengting Medical. Now I'm asking, those who wish to follow me are welcome. Those who want to stay at Shengting, I won't stop you. Your salary and compensation will be paid in full. Before I could finish, old Ju, the deputy director of cardiac surgery, spoke up firmly. Director Lin, we've always worked for you. Without you, we wouldn't have mastered these techniques or had the chance to lead such complex surgeries. What is Shengting anyway? Wherever you go, we go. That's right, we're following you. Director Lin, I've been sick of that scumbag Jiang for a long time. All he does is brag about our surgical results to the public. What has he ever given us? We're sticking with you. Not a single one of the 12 doctors hesitated. Every one of them chose to follow me. I nodded, my resolve hardening. Jiang thought I'd be left with nothing once I left Shengting. He didn't realize that the heart of his cardiac department was me and the team I had built. Now I was going to rip that heart out by the roots. Good, thank you for your trust, I said. Starting today we are resigning. En masse, I have already negotiated a partnership with Huakang Medical Group. They will fund the establishment of an independent Lin Zai Heart Center. We will have full operational personnel and research autonomy. Salaries will be 1.5 times what you earned at Shengting, and research funding will be uncapped. Huakang Medical Group was a powerhouse with a top-tier public hospital background. Their reputation far exceeded Shengting's, and they had tried to headhunt me many times before with lucrative offers I had always refused because of Jiang. Now there were no more strings attached. The team erupted in excitement. Fantastic, Huakang Medical, that's a top-tier national platform. Director Lin, we knew following you was the right choice. Let's do it. We'll write the resignation letters right now and submit them tomorrow. That night, all 12 doctors signed their resignations simultaneously. I had my lawyer send a formal legal letter to Shengting Medical officially terminating the exclusive licenses for my 4 core patents and demanding they cease all commercial use immediately, or face litigation. The next morning at Shengting Medical Headquarters, Jiang had just arrived at the office, still reeling from yesterday's fury, when his special assistant burst in, face pale and clutching a stack of resignation letters. President Jiang, this is bad, disaster has struck. Jiang frowned impatiently. What's the panic? Is the sky falling? The cardiac surgery department. They're all gone. The assistant's voice was shaking. Director Lin took all 12 lead surgeons with her. They've all submitted resignations and aren't coming in today. We have over 100 surgeries scheduled, and as of today there's no one to perform them. The coffee cup in Jiang hand hit the floor with a clatter. Soaking his trousers, he lunged to his feet, staring in disbelief. What did you say? All of them, all 12 are gone? Yes, every single one. The assistant was on the verge of tears, and we received a letter from Director Lin's lawyer. She's terminated the exclusive licenses for all 4 patents and demanded we stop using them immediately. Otherwise she's suing for infringement. Jiang stumbled back into his chair, his mind going blank. He finally realized I wasn't just throwing a tantrum. I was truly dismantling his empire. Cardiac surgery was the core of Shengting Medical, its largest revenue stream and the foundation of his expansion and financing. Without surgeons, and without the patented technology, the department was paralyzed. Hundreds of patients would demand refunds and file complaints. Jianga Chen frantically grabbed his phone to call me, but his number had long been blacklisted. He tried calling through his assistant, blocked. He told HR to contact the departing doctors with massive raises, but every single one of them refused, stating they only worked for Lin Zai. In a fit of rage, Jianga Chen swept everything off his desk, computer, files, decor, leaving the office in a shambles. His eyes were bloodshot as he roared, "Lin Zai, you bitch, you actually cut the ground out from under me. I won't let you get away with this, never." Meanwhile, I was at the Huakang Medical Group headquarters, signing a partnership agreement with their CEO Jiu Yensi. Jiu Yensi smiled and extended his hand. "Director Lin, welcome to Huakang. As of today, the Lin Zai Heart Center is officially established. We will provide all the resources you need." I shook his hand. "Thank you, President Jiu. I won't let Huakang down." After the signing, he took me to see the newly renovated center. The state-of-the-art operating rooms and top-tier equipment were levels above what Shengting offered. Qin Ran looked at the new facilities, buzzing with excitement. "Zai, this is amazing. We finally have our own place. We never have to look at Jianga Chen's face ever again." I looked at the new center, a faint smile on my lips. "Jianga Chen, you said I'm nothing without you. Look at me now, I'm standing higher and going further than ever, and soon you'll find out exactly how hard Shengting falls without me." The game was only just beginning. The setup for the Lin Zai Heart Center went smoothly. Huakang gave me total autonomy. My entire team had transitioned over, and patients who were scheduled for surgery at Shengting cancelled their appointments there to follow me to Huakang. My clinic slots were fully booked for 3 months out within hours of opening. Everything was looking up, but I knew Jianga Chen wouldn't take this lying down. He was a petty, vengeful man. I had humiliated him and crippled his core business. He was bound to strike back. Sure enough, the retaliation came quickly. One morning after finishing my rounds, Qin Ran rushed into my office, her face white as she held up her phone. "Sister Zai, look, the internet is full of trending posts attacking you." I took the phone and opened Weibo. The top 3 trending topics were all about me, marked with the vivid red exploding tag, #Lin Zai medical malpractice leading to death, Lin Zai taking bribes and illegal operations, #the truth behind Lin Zai resigning from Shengting. I clicked the first one. It was a collection of articles from marketing accounts, complete with forged medical records and death certificates. They claimed that 3 years ago, during a bypass surgery I performed, my error caused the patient to bleed out and die. They alleged that I had conspired with Shengting Medical to suppress the news with hush money. The articles also claimed I frequently demanded red envelopes, bribes, from families and would intentionally delay surgeries if they weren't paid. In the comments, trolls were stoking the fire, and many uninformed netizens were already lashing out. "My God, she looks so professional, but she's actually like this. Killing someone through negligence and covering it up, terrifying. Taking bribes, where is her medical ethics? How can she still practice? Revoke her license. No wonder she left Shengting. Her past caught up with her and she couldn't stay poor. Shengting having to deal with a doctor like that." I scrolled down and saw a long post from Su Luoluo under the second trending topic. In the post, she painted herself as a pitiful victim, claiming she had congenital heart disease and had come to me for surgery 3 years ago. She alleged that because of my relationship with Jianga Chen, I held a grudge and intentionally botched her operation, causing her condition to worsen to the point where she now lived in constant agony. She even posted a bunch of forged medical reports, implying that I lacked medical ethics and had sabotaged her treatment over a personal vendetta. The post instantly set the internet ablaze. The comment section was a cesspool of sympathy for her and vitriol for me. "My God, this is pure evil. Sabotaging a surgery out of jealousy. This is heart surgery. People die from this. This female doctor is terrifying, bringing personal drama into the OR. She doesn't deserve to practice medicine. I feel so bad for the poor girl to be harmed like this is tragic. Lin Zai must be investigated." Qin Ran's hands were shaking with rage as she read the comments. "Sister Zai, this is all fake. Jianga Chen and Su Luoluo teamed up to forge this. The patient from 3 years ago died of a sudden pulmonary embolism post-surgery. It had nothing to do with the operation itself and all the records prove it, and Su Luoluo, she doesn't even have heart disease, let alone had surgery here. They are absolutely shameless." I looked at the screen. With a calm expression, I didn't feel a ripple of emotion. This was the extent of Jianga Chen's talent. Since he couldn't beat me fair and square, he resorted to these bottom-tier tactics, slinging mud to ruin my reputation and get my medical license revoked so I'd be blacklisted from the industry. He thought this would break me. How naive. In medicine, talk is cheap. What matters are hard skills, flawless surgical records, and patient rapport. His forged dirt wouldn't hold up under the slightest scrutiny. Just then, my phone rang. It was the Medical Administration Department of the Municipal Health Commission. Is this Dr. Lin Zai? We have received a verified report alleging medical malpractice, illegal practice, and the solicitation of bribes. This is a formal notification for you to attend a medical appraisal hearing tomorrow at 9:00 a.m. at the Health Commission to provide an explanation regarding these allegations. Understood, I replied calmly. I will be there on time. After I hung up, Qin Ran grew even more frantic. Sister Zai, Jianga Chen actually reported you to the commission. He's trying to get your license pulled. What are we going to do? What are we going to do? We're going to that hearing and exposing their lies in front of everyone, I said with a slight smile. Go gather the complete file for that patient from 3 years ago, surgical records, post-op emergency logs, the autopsy report, and the Medical Association's final verdict. Bring Su Luoluo's entire history with this hospital too. Tomorrow I'm going to make sure they hoist themselves by their own petard. On it. I'll get everything ready right now. The following morning at 9:00 a.m. the hearing commenced. The room was packed with 5 of the country's top cardiac surgeons and officials from the Health Commission. Jianga Chen and Su Luoluo were already there, seated on the accuser's side when I walked in. Jianga Chen's eyes flashed with a hint of malice, while Su Luoluo immediately turned teary-eyed, looking like the picture of a wronged innocent. I took my seat on the respondent's side, composed and unfazed. The hearing began with an official reading the allegations before turning to Jianga Chen. Accusers, please submit your evidence. Jianga Chen immediately stood up and presented the forged medical records, death certificates, and Su Luoluo's reports. He spoke with an air of righteous indignation. Experts, leaders, here is the complete evidence of Lin Zai's malpractice and her intentional delay of patient treatment. As a doctor, Lin Zai has zero ethics. Her negligence led to a patient's death and her personal spite caused her to intentionally sabotage my sister Su Luoluo's treatment. Someone like this is unfit to practice. We demand the commission revoke her license immediately and issue the severest penalties. Su Luoluo began to sob, her voice trembling. Experts, I went to Dr. Lin for surgery 3 years ago because she was jealous of my relationship with Brother Chen. She intentionally messed up the surgery. My health has been declining ever since and I live in pain every single day. I beg you, please give me justice. She stole a glance at me, her eyes gleaming with triumph. The official turned to me. Respondent Lin Zai, what is your explanation regarding these allegations? Do you have evidence to submit? I nodded, stood up and took the microphone. First, regarding the accusation that I caused a patient's death through surgical error 3 years ago, I have the complete evidence right here. I signaled to Qin Ran, who immediately projected the documents onto the large screen while distributing hard copies to every expert in the room. Point 1. The pre-op diagnosis, surgical logs and post-op progress notes are all here. The surgery was a success with no complications, and the patient was returned to the ward with stable vitals. Point 2. The patient passed away 72 hours post-surgery due to a sudden massive acute pulmonary embolism. These are the emergency resuscitation logs, the autopsy report, and the technical appraisal from the Municipal Medical Association. The verdict clearly states that this was not a case of medical malpractice and was unrelated to the surgical procedure. Point 3. The records and death certificates submitted by the accuser are complete forgeries. The doctor's signature on those documents is not mine. I have already submitted a forensic handwriting analysis report proving the signatures were faked. I paused, looking at Jianga Chen, whose face had turned a ghostly shade of white. Jianga Chen, by using forged evidence to maliciously report me and providing false materials to a government agency, you have committed libel and the forgery of official documents. I have already instructed my lawyer to report this to the police and pursue criminal charges. Jianga Chen's body jolted, his mouth hung open, but no words came out. I then turned my gaze to the sniveling Su Luoluo, a mocking smile touching my lips as I brought up the second set of evidence. Next, regarding Ms. Su Luoluo's claim that I botched her surgery, first I must inform the panel that Ms. Su Luoluo has never undergone any cardiac surgery under my care. In fact, she only visited my clinic once, 3 years ago, for a routine physical. The screen displayed Su Luoluo's full physical report from that year, clear for all to see. This is Ms. Su Luoluo's report from Shengting Medical. The echocardiogram, EKG, and coronary CT all show that her heart was perfectly healthy. There was no structural heart disease, let alone a congenital condition requiring surgery. I stared her down, enunciating every word. Ms. Su Luoluo, you claim I operated on you. Where are the surgical logs, the anesthesia records, the hospitalization files? You can't even produce a basic admission record. Yet you dare claim I operated on you and intentionally failed. Furthermore, you claim you haven't recovered. However, I have your physical report from a private hospital from just last week. Your heart is still perfectly healthy, so where exactly is this agony coming from? The room erupted into whispers. The 5 experts frowned as they pored over the reports, their looks toward Su Luoluo shifting to sheer contempt. Su Luoluo's face went from pale to ashen. Her tears stopped midstream. She sat there trembling, unable to utter a single syllable. She never imagined I could get my hands on her latest medical records and shatter her lies so publicly. Jiangachen sat beside her, his face flushing various shades of red and purple, looking like he wanted the floor to swallow him whole. I addressed the panel and the officials, experts, leaders. In my 5 years of practice, I have performed over 300 cardiac surgeries with 0 accidents and 0 complaints. All my records are open for audit. Jiangachen and Su Luoluo, driven by personal grudges, forged evidence to maliciously ruin my career. This behavior is abhorrent. I request the Commission handle this case of malicious reporting and forgery with the utmost severity to clear my name. The 5 experts nodded in unison. One addressed the Commission lead. After reviewing all the evidence, the allegations are entirely groundless and constitute a malicious report. Dr. Lin Zai has committed no malpractice or ethical violations. The evidence provided by the accusers is fabricated. The Commission official announced the verdict on the spot. Based on the expert panel's findings, the allegations are dismissed as false. Regarding the accusers' acts of forgery and malicious reporting, we will be handing this case over to the public security organs for legal processing. The hearing ended. I packed my things and walked out of the room. Jiangachen rushed out after me, blocking my path. His eyes were bloodshot as he hissed through gritted teeth. Lin Zai, you were prepared for this, weren't you? You did this on purpose. I looked at him and smiled coldly. Jiangachen, you're the one who threw the first punch. I simply presented the truth to prove my innocence. What, you thought you were allowed to frame me, but I wasn't allowed to defend myself. I walked past him, then stopped and looked back. Jiangachen, if you want to play, I'm game. But remember this, don't play so hard that you end up behind bars. I walked away with Qinran without looking back. Behind me, I could hear Su Luoluo's wailing and Jiangachen's primal roar of fury. I knew I had won this round. Jiangachen tried to destroy my reputation, but instead he exposed his own lies and became the laughingstock of the industry. But I also knew this was just the beginning. A man like him wouldn't stop here. He'd come back with something even more desperate, and I was ready. I'd make sure he learned that crossing me was the biggest mistake of his life. Following the hearing, the Health Commission released an official statement confirming that the allegations were false and that the case regarding Jiangachen and Su Luoluo's forgery had been referred to the police. I posted the official announcement and the complete chain of evidence to my personal Weibo account with the caption, 5 years in medicine, always respecting life and upholding ethics. The truth speaks for itself. I will pursue legal action to the fullest extent against those who spread rumors and false accusations. The post went viral instantly. Once the netizens saw the evidence, the tide turned completely. My God, it was a total frame-up. Jiangachen and Su Luoluo are disgusting, forging evidence and then playing the victim. I'm gonna puke. I knew Dr. Lin wasn't that kind of person. Over 300 surgeries with 0 accidents, those are god-tier skills. Respect. Is Jiangachen for real? Splashing dirty water on his ex-wife after a breakup? using such despicable tactics to try and ruin her career, has truly hit a new low. My heart goes out to Dr. Lin, being framed by a scumbag like that. Thank God there was evidence to prove her innocence. I fully support Dr. Lin in defending her rights. The netizens who had previously attacked me were now apologizing in droves. My Weibo followers surged by millions overnight, all showing their support. Many patients who had been misled by the rumors also left comments, saying I had performed their surgeries and that I was both skilled and gentle, definitely not the person portrayed online. Jiang Chen and Su Luoluo became the targets of nationwide scorn. Netizens swarmed their Weibo accounts to blast them. Su Luoluo disabled her comments immediately while Jiang Chen's profile was absolutely trashed. The public security organs also issued a formal announcement, opening an investigation into Jiang Chen and Su Luoluo for the suspected forgery of state documents and malicious accusation. Instead of destroying me, Jiang Chen had landed himself right on the police's radar, but he still wouldn't give up. I knew that what he wanted to destroy most wasn't just my reputation, but my professional career. He knew I was applying for the National Key Clinical Specialty Project for Cardiovascular Diseases. This is the highest level research project in the domestic cardiovascular field. If successful, it wouldn't just mean 200 million in R&D funding, it was the industry's highest honor, one that would cement my position as a leader in domestic cardiac surgery. He was bound to trip me up on this. Sure enough, a week before the project review meeting, I received word that Jiang Chen had filed a real name report with the Health Commission and the Ministry of Science and Technology. He claimed my application materials were fraudulent, that I had committed academic misconduct and faked clinical data, and that I was unqualified for a national key project. He even bribed several self-proclaimed experts in the industry to post online, questioning my academic abilities and claiming my patented technology wasn't my own, but plagiarized from abroad. For a moment, voices of doubt resurfaced online, and the review panel launched a pre-audit of my materials based on the report. Qinran was fuming as she looked at the online backlash. Sister Zai, Jiang Chen is like a ghost that won't stay dead, he reported. You again. He even paid people to question your research. He has no shame. I looked at my application materials and smiled, completely unbothered. In science, truth is truth and lies are lies. Every piece of data in my application came from clinical practice. Every technology had a complete R&D log, patent certificate, and SCI paper to back it up. I didn't fear any audit. Jiang Chen's attempt to sabotage my project was nothing but a pipe dream. A week later, the National Key Clinical Project Review meeting officially convened in Beijing. The meeting used a hybrid online-offline format with full audio and video recording. 7 titans of the domestic cardiovascular field served as the review committee, with leaders from the Health Commission and Ministry of Science and Technology supervising. I flew to Beijing with my team. When it was my turn for the presentation, the head of the panel, Academician Zhong, a legend in cardiac surgery, looked at me and got straight to the point. Comrade Lin Zai, before you begin, we received a real name report alleging fraud in your materials, academic misconduct, and faked data. Regarding these allegations, please provide an explanation first. The hall fell dead silent, and the online observation room exploded with comments. Jiang Chen had pulled some strings to get into the observation gallery. Sitting in a corner, he looked at me with a smug expression, waiting for me to make a fool of myself. I stood up, took the microphone, and spoke calmly. Distinguished experts and leaders, I have 3 points in response to the report. First, the core technology of this application is the off-pump minimally invasive coronary artery bypass technique, which I developed independently. This technology has been granted 4 national invention patents. The certificates, R&D logs, animal testing records, and clinical data are all right here, ready for inspection at any time. Second, all clinical data in the materials comes from 120 surgeries where I was the lead surgeon. All surgical records, patient follow-up reports, and post-operative data are fully traceable. Every case has a complete medical file with zero fabrication or exaggeration. Third, regarding the claim of plagiarism, I have the relevant SCI papers here. My papers were published a full year before similar technologies appeared abroad. The core principles and surgical pathways are entirely different. There is no plagiarism. Furthermore, the experts who reported me have never worked in the field of minimally invasive cardiac surgery, so their critiques have no academic basis. After speaking, I signaled my assistant to project the evidence onto the big screen while distributing physical copies to every expert on the panel. The 7 experts scrutinized the materials and nodded one after another, their eyes full of approval. Academician Zhong nodded at me and said, "Very well, we have received your explanation. Now please begin your project presentation." I took a deep breath and started. For 40 minutes I detailed the R&D background, technological innovation, clinical prospects and research roadmap. Every detail was precise, the logic was clear, and the data was robust. I answered every question from the experts fluently, demonstrating a rock-solid academic foundation and clinical experience. When I finished, the room erupted in thunderous applause that lasted for a long time. All 7 experts gave me a perfect score. Academician Zhong looked at me with a smile. "Comrade Lin Zai, your project is highly innovative and holds immense clinical value. It is a major breakthrough for domestic cardiovascular medicine. Our panel has reached a unanimous decision. Your project has passed the review and is officially selected for the National Cardiovascular Disease Key Clinical Specialty Project." The room broke into applause again. The online live stream went wild. "Incredible, Dr. Lin is a beast." A unanimous vote from the experts. That is true power. Jianga Chen's face is practically swollen from that slap. He reported her for fraud only for her to get a unanimous pass on a national project. Hilarious. Strength is the best clapback. Dr. Lin is so cool. Sitting in the corner of the gallery, Jianga Chen's face was deathly pale. He was shaking so hard he dropped his water cup. He never imagined his malicious report would fail so spectacularly. Instead of ruining me, it gave me the perfect stage to prove my worth. After the meeting, the Health Commission announced on the spot that all of Jianga Chen's reports were dismissed. They issued a public reprimand for his malicious reporting and disruption of scientific order, and placed him on the research integrity blacklist, permanently banning him from applying for or collaborating on any national-level research projects. The news sent shockwaves through the internet. Jianga Chen became a pariah in the industry, despised by everyone. Meanwhile, I hadn't just secured the national project and the 200 million in funding, I was also appointed as a member of the National Cardiovascular Expert Committee, making me the youngest national-level expert in the field. Jianga Chen had bragged about making it impossible for me to survive in this industry. Now, I was a leader in the field, while he was blacklisted with no place left to stand. Walking out of the hall, Jiu Yanci was already waiting for me at the door. He held a bouquet of white roses and smiled as he handed them over. "Director Lin, congratulations on the successful application." I took the flowers and smiled. "Thank you, Mr. Jiu. It's thanks to Huakang's support. It's because you are excellent." Jiu Yanci looked at me with pure admiration. "I've booked a restaurant for tonight to celebrate." I nodded with a smile. As I sat in the car looking at the Beijing cityscape, the grin on my face deepened. "Jianga Chen, you tried to destroy me, but you only pushed me higher. You thought your report could break me. How naive. Truly capable people never fear rumors or petty suppression. Next, I'll show you just how fragile your precious Shengting Medical really is. Your judgment day is coming." After the national project was secured, my Lin Zai Heart Center officially opened within Huakang Medical. On the opening day, leaders from the Health Commission and legendary experts in cardiac surgery attended the unveiling. Major media outlets like CCTV and People's Daily covered the event. On the very first day, outpatient volume exceeded 1,000. Patients from all over the country flocked to see me. My team expanded rapidly, attracting top cardiac surgeons from across the nation and becoming one of the strongest heart centers in the country. On the flip side, Jianga Chen's Shengting Medical had fallen into an unprecedented crisis. Ever since I left with the core team and terminated the patent licenses, Shengting's cardiac department had been paralyzed. They couldn't hire top lead surgeons, and without the core patents, they couldn't perform high-difficulty surgeries. No one even dared to come for routine procedures. Patients were demanding refunds and outpatient volume was near zero. Cardiac surgery was the pillar of Shengting's revenue. With it gone, the entire group suffered massive losses. and their cash flow was on the brink of collapse. Partners were cancelling contracts, banks were hounding them for loan repayments, and investors were demanding to pull out. Shengting Medical was teetering on the edge of bankruptcy. Jiangachen was like an ant on a hot pan, desperate to save the company. He knew the only way out was to rebuild the cardiac department, reclaim their reputation, and prove they could be industry leaders without me. So, he spent a fortune organizing a national cardiac surgery summit, inviting experts, medical institutions, and journalists from across the country. The highlight was to be a live-streamed, ultra-high difficulty surgery, a Type A aortic dissection. Type A aortic dissection is known as the time bomb of cardiovascular disease. It has an extremely high mortality rate and the surgery is incredibly complex, one of the most difficult in the field. Jiangachen wanted to use this live stream to prove that Shengting's cardiac department was still top tier without Lin Ziyi. To pull this off, he paid a massive sum to poach a surgeon from out of town, branding him as the #1 aortic surgeon in the country, hyping him up to no end. A week before the summit, Jiangachen started a nationwide promotional campaign, buying countless articles calling the surgery a pinnacle of domestic skill and an industry milestone. He even sent me an invitation, saying with a snide tone that he invited me to come and observe and learn. Qin Ran was livid. Sister Ziyi, he is so shameless. The doctor he hired has had several surgical accidents before. His reputation in the industry is trash. He actually dares to live stream such a high-risk surgery. He's gambling with a patient's life. I looked at the invitation and smiled. Jiangachen had gone mad in his desperation to save face. He was ignoring patient safety in a Type A dissection. One wrong move means the patient dies on the table. Even when I operate, I make exhaustive preparations, let alone a doctor with a poor track record. Jiangachen wanted this live stream to be his comeback. But one slip-up and it would become Shengting Medical's funeral. I spoke up. Accept the invitation, we're going to the summit. Qin Ran was stunned. Sister Ziyi, we're actually going. Yes, I nodded. If something really goes wrong during the surgery, the patient is innocent. I won't just stand by and watch someone die. Qin Ran immediately understood. Got it, we'll get ready. A week later, the National Cardiac Surgery Summit hosted by Shengting Medical officially opened at a 5-star hotel in Shanghai. The hall was packed with experts and journalists. The large screen on the main stage showed a live feed from the operating room. Jiangachen stood on stage, looking high and mighty as he gave the opening speech, boasting about Shengting's technical prowess and the surgeon of the day. He looked like he already had the win in the bag when he spotted me in the audience. His eyes flashed with a mix of pride and provocation, as if saying, "See, I can do just fine without you." I ignored him, keeping my eyes fixed calmly on the operating room feed. The speech ended, and the live stream began. The patient was wheeled in, anesthesia, disinfection, chest opening, everything proceeded according to the book. The experts in the audience watched closely, whispering to one another. But an hour into the surgery, at the most critical step, the aortic cross-clamping and graft replacement, disaster struck. The lead surgeon made a mistake. The scalpel accidentally nicked the aorta. Instantly, a massive spray of blood erupted, and the screen turned a terrifying shade of red. The patient's blood pressure plummeted to 0 in an instant, and the heart rate monitor went flat. Chaos erupted in the operating room. Nurses scrambled to stop the bleeding while the lead surgeon, face ashen and hands trembling uncontrollably, stood frozen with his scalpel. He was utterly out of his depth, lacking the skill to handle such massive intraoperative hemorrhaging. The auditorium exploded into an uproar. Experts leaped to their feet, staring at the screen with shock and urgency. God, it's an aortic rupture with that much blood loss. There's no way to stop it. It's over. There's no saving the patient now. And it's a live broadcast. Shengting Medical is finished. Is Jiangachen insane? Hiring a doctor of this level for such a high-difficulty surgery on live TV? He's gambling with a life. On stage, Jiangachen's face turned deathly pale. He shook so violently he nearly collapsed. He never expected the doctor he spent a fortune on would fail so catastrophically at the most critical step. If a patient died on the table during a national broadcast, Shengting Medical wouldn't just be disgraced, they'd face massive lawsuits, the revocation of their medical license and immediate bankruptcy in the OR. The lead surgeon had completely spiraled. He screamed into the microphone, "Mr. Jiang, we can't stop the Bleeding, the patient is slipping away, there's nothing more we can do. Jianga Chen stood there, his mind a total blank. The experts in the audience shook their heads. In this situation, even the top specialists in the country would struggle to bring the patient back. Just as everyone assumed the patient was a lost cause, I stood up and grabbed the microphone. I am Dr. Lin Zai. To the OR, push hemostatics intravenously immediately and establish 2 extracorporeal circulation lines to stabilize the blood pressure. I'm coming in now. I threw down the MIC and sprinted toward the OR. Qin Ran grabbed my surgical gown and followed close behind. The room was stunned before erupting again. It's Dr. Lin Zai. She's going in to save it. My God, to step in now. She's incredibly brave. Quick, switch the feed to the OR. Let's see if Dr. Lin can pull off a miracle. Jianga Chen stared at my retreating back for a few seconds before snapping out of it. He chased after me like a madman. He knew that now I was the only person who could save the patient, and the only one who could save Shengting Medical. I reached the OR entrance, scrubbed in at lightning speed, threw on my sterile gown, and stepped inside. On the table, the patient's chest was open, blood gushing out. The monitors showed flat lines for both heart rate and blood pressure. It was the absolute brink. I stepped up to the table, my voice calm and steady. Suction, hemostats, occlusion clamp. The nurse slapped the instruments into my hand without a second's hesitation. I precisely clamped the proximal aorta. The fountain of blood stopped instantly. Then, with rapid surgical precision, I began suturing the aortic tear. Every movement was steady, accurate, and fast. Even with the patient's heart stopped, my hands didn't tremble. Everyone in the room held their breath, watching in sheer awe. The disgraced lead surgeon stood to the side, head bowed in shame. Outside the observation window, Jianga Chen watched me, his body shaking with a mix of despair and desperate hope. 20 minutes later, I finished the repair and released the clamp. The aorta was perfectly sealed, not a single drop leaked. I looked up at the monitor. Prepare for defibrillation, 200 joules. The nurse readied the paddles. Charged, clear. The current hit. The patient's heart gave a violent jolt. Suddenly, a rhythmic waveform appeared on the monitor and the blood pressure began to climb back to normal levels. The patient was back. Muffled cheers broke out in the OR and tears welled in the nurse's eyes. To save a patient after an aortic rupture and 20 minutes of cardiac arrest was nothing short of a miracle in the history of cardiothoracic surgery. I set down my instruments and turned to the assisting doctors. Finish the remaining vascular graft according to standard protocol. Watch the post-op monitoring closely. The doctor nodded vigorously. Understood, Director Lin, leave it to us. I turned and walked out. After shedding my scrubs and stepping through the OR doors, I was immediately swarmed by experts and reporters. A thunderous round of applause broke out and lasted for a long time. Dr. Lin, that was incredible. You performed a miracle. Director Lin, your skill is top tier, truly the best in the country. Reporters shoved microphones into my face, shouting questions. Jianga Chen fought his way through the crowd. He was white-faced and trembling as he bowed deeply to me, nearly dropping to his knees. Zai, thank you so much. You saved the patient and you saved me. I looked at him with a mocking smile, took a microphone from a reporter, and addressed the cameras, enunciating every word clearly. I did not step in today to save Jianga Chen, nor to save Shengting Medical. I did it to save an innocent patient. As a doctor, saving lives is my duty. I could not stand by and watch a life be extinguished. However, I continued, I must clarify that this severe accident occurred because Shengting Medical's lead surgeon lacked the capability to perform such a high difficulty procedure. For the sake of publicity, Shengting Medical completely disregarded patient safety to force a live broadcast. This behavior is extremely irresponsible and a gross violation of medical regulations. Furthermore, the minimally invasive aortic repair technique used in this surgery is my patented invention. Shengting Medical has never been authorized to use it, which constitutes a serious patent infringement. I will be filing a lawsuit immediately to hold Shengting Medical fully accountable. The room went into an uproar. Camera flashes went off like strobes. Jianga Chen's face went paper white. He swayed, nearly collapsing. He never imagined that while I saved the patient, I would also publicly nail him and his company to a pillar of shame. The comeback he had carefully planned had turned into his social execution and a death warrant for Shengting Medical. By that evening, the failed broadcast, my emergency intervention, and Shengting's illegal operations and patent theft were trending at #1 nationwide. The internet was merciless, slamming Jiang Chen for gambling with lives for the sake of hype. The Health Commission dispatched an investigation team that very day. They ordered the cardiothoracic department to cease operations immediately and warned that failure to rectify their issues would result in the permanent revocation of their medical license. Shengting Medical's stock plummeted 90% in a single day, partners pulled out, banks called in loans, and investors filed suits for damages. Shengting Medical was on the edge of the abyss with no way back. This was the first climax of my revenge against that scum. Qin Ran was buzzing as she read the news. Sister Zai, this is so satisfying. Jiang Chen is completely ruined. He wanted to use this broadcast to bounce back, but you slapped him so hard his face is practically melting. I looked out the window and smiled. This was just the beginning. I would take back every patent Jiang Chen stole from me, piece by piece. Everything he owed me, I would make him pay back twofold. Following the broadcast disaster, Shengting Medical fell into total ruin. The investigation uncovered a mountain of violations, false advertising, and chaotic management. They were hit with a 5 million yuan fine, and Jiang Chen was blacklisted from the medical industry. Patients across the country filed class action lawsuits. Of their 23 hospitals, 17 were shut down by local authorities, and the remaining ones were like ghost towns with their bank accounts frozen and assets seized. The company was on the verge of bankruptcy liquidation, but Jiang Chen wouldn't give up. He knew his only remaining bargaining chip was the 4 core patents for minimally invasive cardiac surgery he had stolen from me. He believed that as long as he held those, he could start over even if Shengting went under. Back when I resigned, he had used the transition period to forge my signature on patent transfer agreements, moving the ownership from my name to Shengting Medical. He had used these patents as collateral for loans and a 500 million yuan Series B funding round. It was the only thing that had kept him afloat this long. He thought he had me cornered. He didn't realize that the moment he forged those signatures, he was digging his own grave. The day Shengting was ordered to cease operations, I authorized a top-tier intellectual property legal team to file for patent invalidation and a title lawsuit at the Beijing IP court. I demanded the court recognize me as the sole legal owner and ordered Shengting to stop their infringement and pay for all economic losses. The court served the summons to Jiang Chen immediately. Jiang Chen lost his mind when he got the papers. He knew if those patents were returned to me, he was truly finished. He hired the best IP lawyers he could find and began a PR campaign, claiming the patents were a collective effort by the Shengting team and that I was simply trying to steal the credit now that the company was struggling. He even bought hit pieces to paint me as ungrateful and of poor character. But this time no one bought his lies. The comment sections were brutal. LMAO Dr. Lin applied for those patents before she even joined Shengting. What does that have to do with them? Can Jiang Chen at least try to tell a believable lie? You forged her signature to transfer the patents and then have the nerve to say she's stealing credit. Your skin is thicker than a city wall. Jiang Chen really is the lowest of the low, stealing technology and then biting the victim. Disgusting. Instead of garnering sympathy, his PR stunts only fueled the fire. His reputation was now rotten to the core. 1 month later, the Beijing Intellectual Property Court held a public hearing for the patent ownership dispute. Due to the high profile of the case, the entire proceeding was live-streamed, with millions of viewers tuning in court. Jiang Chen's lawyer produced a thick stack of documents, RAND logs, meeting minutes and lab reports. He addressed the judge with practiced confidence. Your Honor, these are the complete RAND records of Shengting Medical from 2019 to 2022 regarding the 4 patents in question. They prove beyond doubt that these technologies were the collective result of our client's research team. The defendant, Lin Zai, merely performed auxiliary work during her employment. Her attempt to claim sole ownership now is an act of blatant misappropriation. We request the court dismiss all her claims and confirm Shengting Medical as the rightful owner. The judge turned toward me. Plaintiff, what is your response to the defendant's statement? I stood up, holding the microphone. My voice was calm, and I enunciated every syllable. Your Honor, every single record submitted by the defendant is a forgery. These 4 patents were developed independently by me between 2018 and 2020. They have absolutely no connection to Shengting Medical or Jiangachen. Jiangachen's lawyer immediately interjected, "That's absurd, we have the full paper trail, on what basis do you claim they are forged?" I smiled and gestured to my lawyer. Our first set of evidence was projected onto the large screen in the courtroom and simultaneously submitted to the judge in the opposition. The first set of evidence, I began, is an academic paper I published in the Chinese Journal of Thoracic and Cardiovascular Surgery in 2018, a year before Shengting Medical was even founded. This paper fully details the core technical principles, surgical pathways, and design models of the 4 patents. If the company didn't even exist in 2018, how exactly was I performing auxiliary work for their team? On the screen, the publication date, journal ID, and core content were displayed with undeniable clarity. The lawyer's mouth fell open, his face flushed a deep, embarrassed red, and he remained speechless. The livestream comments exploded. "Ha ha ha, talk about a face slap. She published the core research in 2018, the company started in 2019, and they claim they invented it. Who are they kidding? Ken Jiang. Ichen, hire a lawyer who actually does background checks. This lie was so easy to debunk, it's embarrassing. I've never seen anyone so shameless, stealing someone's work and acting like the victim." I paused for a second before bringing up the second set of evidence. This set includes my complete development process from 2018 to 2020, every version of the technical blueprints, animal trial records, raw data, simulations, and the original patent filing documents. Each file contains an immutable timestamp, forming a closed chain of evidence proving I am the sole inventor. Furthermore, I continued, the defendant's records start in June 2020, 3 months after I had already completed the RAND and filed the patents. Even more hilariously, the lab reports they submitted list equipment that wasn't even released in China until 2021. I'd love to know how the defendant completed experiments in 2020 using technology that didn't exist yet. The courtroom buzzed with murmurs. The judge looked at the defendant's side with a stern, piercing gaze. Jiangachen sat in his seat, trembling, his face ashen. His lawyer kept his head down, not daring to utter another word. I moved to the final blow. The third set of evidence is a report from a forensic identification center. It proves that my signature on the patent transfer agreement submitted to the National Intellectual Property Administration is a forgery. I never authorized any transfer. By forging my name to seize these patents, the defendant has committed a criminal act. I sat back down. The silence in the room was heavy. The facts were indisputable. Jiangachen hadn't just stolen my work, he had manufactured a web of lies that was now unraveling in front of the entire country. After a brief, one-sided legal debate where Jiangachen's lawyer could offer nothing but weak, hollow excuses, the judge struck his gavel. Following the deliberation of this court, it is hereby found that the 4 patents in question were developed independently by the plaintiff, Lin Ziyi. The defendant, Shengting Medical, committed patent infringement by forging signatures and using the technology for commercial gain. The court rules as follows. First, the 4 invention patents are confirmed to belong solely to Lin Ziyi. Second, Shengting Medical must immediately cease all infringing activities. Third, Shengting Medical shall compensate the plaintiff 120 million renminbi for economic losses within 10 days. Fourth, all court costs, legal fees, and forensic fees shall be borne entirely by the defendant. The gavel slammed down. The live stream went wild. Justice is served. 120 million. Let's see him try to pay that while bankrupt. He stole her tech and ended up losing everything. Pure karma. Jiangachen slumped in his chair, his eyes hollow and dead. His final lifeline had snapped. To a company already on the brink, a 120 million yuan judgment was the final nail in the coffin. Even worse, the investors who had handed him 500 million yuan in Series B funding immediately filed reports with the police for commercial fraud. Since the patents, the core of the deal, never belonged to Shengting, Jiangachen was now facing criminal charges. As I walked out of the courthouse into the warm sunlight, Jiyu Yanxi was waiting for me. He opened the car door with a smile. Congratulations, Director Lin, a total victory. I stepped into the car, smiling back. Thank you, Mr. Jiyu, for everything. You did this yourself, he said softly. You were strong enough to take what was yours. I looked out the window, my smile deepening. Jianga Chen, I've taken back what you stole, and I'm not done yet. I'm going to make sure there isn't a single corner of this industry left for you to hide in. Immediately after the win, I sent out lawyers' letters to every medical institution and device company in the country. The message was clear. Anyone using my patented technology without my written consent, or anyone collaborating with Jianga Chen, would be sued for secondary infringement. I also forwarded the court's judgment to every major medical association. I blocked every exit he had left. But Jianga Chen was a cornered rat. Knowing he was finished domestically, he tried to reach out to overseas firms, hoping to sell off whatever project data he still had to fund and escape. He even registered for the National Cardiovascular Medical Conference, the most prestigious summit in the field, to scout for foreign buyers. When the organizers invited me to be a keynote speaker, I knew it was time for the final curtain call. He wanted a way out. I was going to give him a dead end. The conference in Guangzhou was packed with global experts and top-tier investors. I was scheduled as the second keynote speaker. Jianga Chen was there too, hiding in a corner with his brochures, trying to corner foreign execs. But the rumors had traveled fast. They avoided him like the plague. He looked pathetic, a disgraced con man playing at being a businessman. Then it was my turn. Please welcome the member of the National Cardiovascular Expert Committee and Chief Scientist of the National Clinical Project Director of the Lin Zai Heart Center, MS Lin Zai. The applause was deafening. I walked onto the stage, adjusted my suit, and looked out at the 1,000-strong audience. Ladies and gentlemen, colleagues, I am Lin Zai. Today, I'd like to discuss the innovation and clinical application of transcatheter mitral valve replacement, TMVR. For the next 40 minutes I spoke fluently in both Chinese and English, presenting my latest breakthrough, a world first TMVR technique. It required no open chest surgery and no cardiac arrest. By using a simple femoral artery puncture, the surgery time was cut from 4 hours to just 30 minutes, with an 80% reduction in risk. It was a generational leap forward. As I showed the follow-up data for 100 successful cases, the room was silent with or punctuated by bursts of applause. In the corner, Jianga Chen watched me, his face turning from pale to gray. He hadn't just failed to ruin me, he had watched me ascend to a height he could never even dream of reaching. At the end of my presentation, my tone shifted. I looked directly into the crowd. Beyond the technical innovations, I want to talk about the baseline of our industry. It is about the reverence for life, the rigor of medicine, the respect for intellectual property, and our fundamental responsibility to the patient. The room fell deathly quiet. Every eye was on me. I raised my hand and the staff flipped the switch on the projector. On the screen, a mountain of evidence appeared, documenting Shengting Medical's faked physician credentials, inflated surgical data, illegal clinical trials, and fraudulent claims regarding medical outcomes. It included internal documents, patient complaints, administrative penalty notices from the Health Commission, and the court's judgment on patent infringement. Not long ago, in order to generate commercial hype, Shengting Medical ignored patient safety and allowed unqualified doctors to livestream a high-difficulty cardiac surgery. This caused an aortic rupture during the procedure, nearly killing the patient on the operating table. I said, pausing to look at the crowd, emphasizing every word. Furthermore, this company forged signatures and stole my patents to secure commercial financing. A court has already ruled against them for infringement, ordering a payout of 120 million RMB. I took a breath and continued. Today I officially announce that I am permanently banning Shengting Medical and Mr. Jianga Chen personally from using any of my patented technologies or research results in any form. At the same time, I call upon medical peers, institutions, and device manufacturers worldwide to join me in boycotting these actions that disregard human life, violate intellectual property, and spread false information. Let us work together to protect the integrity of the medical industry and safeguard the lives of our patients. As soon as I finished, the room erupted into thunderous applause that lasted for a full minute. The president of the Chinese Medical Doctor Association walked onto the stage, grabbed the microphone and announced, "The CMDA has officially decided to suspend Shengting Medical's membership. We are blacklisting Mr. Jianga Chen from the medical industry. He is permanently banned nationwide." Following that, Heads of the China Medical Device Industry Association and the National Non-Government Medical Institutions Association stood up one after another. They announced that Shengting Medical and Jianghechen were blacklisted and permanently barred from any industry events or collaborations. Global medical device giants Medtronic, Abbott, and Johnson & Johnson also voiced their support on the spot, pledging never to work with Shengting Medical or Jianghechen. The hall rang with applause once again. Tucked away in a corner of the hall, Jianghechen looked on, completely shell-shocked. He never imagined that I would expose all of his dirty laundry on the industry's grandest global stage. He wasn't just finished domestically, he was now a pariah in the global medical community, a rat scurrying across the street with everyone out to get him. He had nowhere left to stand. Reporters quickly spotted him in the corner and swarmed like a pack of wolves, shoving microphones into his face. "Mr. Jiang, what's your response to Dr. Lin Zai's speech? Mr. Jiang, now that Shengting Medical's illegal operations have been exposed globally, what do you have to say for yourself? The entire industry is boycotting you, Mr. Jiang. What are your future plans?" Trapped in the crowd, Jianghechen's face was deathly pale. He stood there helpless, unable to utter a single word. Finally, he covered his face and scrambled out of the hall in total humiliation, hounded by the press the entire way. Laughter echoed through the hall as people watched him flee. As I stepped off the stage, I was immediately surrounded by representatives from top global medical device companies and healthcare institutions. "Dr. Lin, our company wants to establish a deep partnership with you to bring your mitral valve replacement technology to the market. Director Lin, our hospital would like to invite you to serve as our honorary dean. Name your price." "Dr. Lin, our foundation wants to invest in your project to support your R&D. Countless olive branches were extended my way. Jianghechen had once bragged that he would make it impossible for me to survive in this industry. Now, I was the most sought-after expert in the global medical field while he was permanently blacklisted with every path forward blocked. This was the second climax of my revenge. After the summit, Shengting Medical spiraled into total ruin. Every domestic partner terminated their contracts. The Health Commission revoked the medical licenses of every hospital under the Shengting umbrella, and the Market Supervision Bureau cancelled their business license. Patients, employees, and investors all filed lawsuits, and the court officially declared Shengting Medical bankrupt. Jianghechen was not only disgraced but also saddled with over 100 million renminbi in debt. He was labeled a dishonest debtor, restricted from high-end consumption, meaning no planes or high-speed trains. He was quite literally a deadbeat. Qinran was ecstatic as she scrolled through the bankruptcy notice online. "Sister Zai, we won. Jianghechen is totally finished. The whole industry is blackballing him. He'll never bounce back." I looked out the window and smiled. This isn't enough. The illegal acts Jianghechen committed to try and save his company, I hadn't revealed all of them yet. His judgment day hadn't arrived. I was going to make sure he paid the full legal price for everything he had done. After the bankruptcy, Jianghechen plummeted from the clouds straight into the mud. His properties and cars were all seized and auctioned off by the court to pay his debts. His mother was bedridden after a stroke, requiring massive daily medical expenses. As a blacklisted debtor, even staying in a hotel or calling a taxi was restricted. He was living in abject poverty, yet even at this point he didn't stop. Instead of reflecting on his mistakes, he blamed all of his misfortune on me. His hatred had reached a point of insanity. He knew he had no chance of a comeback. Even if he was going down, he wanted to drag me into the depths with him, ruin my career, and take me to hell. So he took a desperate gamble and launched a plan to go public in the US. Using what little remained of his connections, he registered a shell company. He repackaged the assets of the bankrupt Shengting Medical into this shell, forged 3 years of financial statements, and inflated revenue by over 1 billion RMB. He hid a mountain of lawsuits, penalties, and debts, hoping to pull off an IPO, grab the cash and flee. He also forged documents regarding my patent ownership in the filing, claiming my technology belonged to his shell company. If the IPO succeeded, he'd have the money to run and could even turn around and sue me for infringement, destroying my reputation forever. To pull off this insane plan, he tracked down Shengting Medical's former CFO and asked him to cook the books, promising a massive payout after the IPO. What he didn't realize was that the CFO loathed him. Jianga Chen had fired him without cause and owed him back pay and severance. The CFO pretended to agree and helped him with the financials, but behind the scenes he compiled a complete dossier of evidence: the financial fraud, the inflated revenue, the embezzlement of previously raised funds, and the medical insurance fraud. He sent it all to me. Anonymously, the evidence was rock solid: 3 years of internal versus external ledgers, bank statements showing the fake revenue, forged contracts, approval slips for embezzled funds, and a line-by-line record of the insurance fraud. The CFO wrote in the email, "Director Lin, I know I did things I shouldn't have for Jianga Chen and I regret it. This evidence is a complete record of his crimes. I'm giving it to you in the hope that he gets what he deserves. Consider this my way of making amends." My eyes turned cold as I looked through the files. Jianga Chen really was out of his mind. To commit financial fraud for a U.S. listing, and even defraud the National Insurance Fund at this stage, these were serious felonies. He thought his plan was airtight, but he had left a trail of breadcrumbs. I backed up the evidence several times. I sent one copy to my lawyer, one anonymously to the China Securities Regulatory Commission, CSRC, the Public Security Bureau's Economic Crime Unit, and the National Healthcare Security Administration. I kept the final copy for myself. I was going to give him a gift at his IPO launch. I wanted him to fall into the abyss at the exact moment he felt most powerful. A week later, Jianga Chen held a lavish IPO launch event at a 5-star hotel in Shanghai. He invited scores of overseas investment firms and financial media for a global live stream. He wanted to use this event to whitewash his image, secure overseas funding, and complete his exit strategy. The venue was decked out in gold. Jianga Chen, wearing a sharp new suit with his hair perfectly slicked back, looked like the high-flying executive once again. He stood on stage, spinning grand tales for the overseas investors about how his company possessed world-leading minimally invasive cardiac technology and would soon be valued at over $10 billion USD. He promised that anyone who invested now would make a fortune. The investors were buzzing, the atmosphere was electric. He truly thought his life was about to rebound. He had no idea his end had arrived just as he reached the peak of his pitch, announcing the start of the pre-IPO funding round with a $500 million US valuation. Every investor and reporter's phone buzzed at once. Everyone received an anonymous text containing a link. The link led to the full evidence package of Jianga Chen's financial fraud, embezzlement, and insurance scams. In an instant, the room exploded. Investors looked at their phones, their faces twisting with rage. They stood up and started shouting at Jianga Chen, "You forged your financial statements, you faked $1 billion in revenue. This is securities fraud. What top-tier technology? This isn't even yours. You're trying to scam us using someone else's patents. You defrauded the medical insurance fund. That's a criminal offense. We're calling the police." Total chaos broke out. Investors walked out in droves. Reporters charged the stage like a tidal wave, shoving cameras into Jianga Chen's face as flashes strobed incessantly. Jianga Chen stood on stage, staring at the evidence on his own phone. He turned ghostly pale, his body trembling so hard he dropped the microphone. His mind went blank. He couldn't fathom how his perfect plan had been completely exposed. At that moment, the doors to the hall were kicked open. Investigators from the CSRC, officers from the Economic Crime Unit, and officials from the Healthcare Security Administration marched in. They walked straight onto the stage and produced a warrant. "Jianga Chen, we have received reports and evidence regarding your involvement in fraudulent securities issuance, medical insurance fraud, and embezzlement. You are being summoned for investigation. Please come with us." Looking at the warrant, Jianga Chen's legs gave out, and he collapsed on the stage. The police handcuffed him and hauled him out of the venue. His meticulously planned IPO launch had turned into a live-streamed arrest. As the news broke, the internet went into a frenzy. The hashtag #Jianga Chen arrested at IPO launch shot to the top of the trending charts. Netizens were cheering, "Serves him right, he really pushed his luck, bankrupt and still trying to scam investors, finally caught. Jianga Chen is rotten to the core, defrauding the medical insurance fund. That's a felony. Life in prison is too good for him. Karma is a dish best served cold. He tried to ruin Dr. Lin so many times, and now he's finally getting what's coming to him. So satisfying." I sat in my office at Huakang Medical, scrolling through the news with a heart as still as water. This was his reckoning. To save himself, Jianga Chen had crossed every legal red line, defrauding investors, scamming the National Insurance Fund, and it was only right that he paid the price in a court of law. But I never expected that Jiangachen would still refuse to give up. After being taken by the police, he managed to get out on bail pending trial. Instead of reflecting on his crimes, he directed all his rage toward me. He knew I was the one who exposed the evidence, the one who had crushed his final hope. His hatred had become pathological. He actually spent 500,000 renminbi to hire 2 thugs to break into my lab at Huakang Medical. His plan was to destroy the clinical data and research materials for my national key projects, and simultaneously tamper with the operating room to frame me for a fatal medical accident. He wanted me disgraced, my medical license revoked. He wanted me to fall into hell right alongside him. But he underestimated me. I had long anticipated that he would strike out like a cornered dog. I had already installed top-tier security systems in the lab and operating rooms, backed by 24-hour patrols. The 2 intruders were caught red-handed before they could even touch a single file. They were handed over to the police and cracked instantly under interrogation. They confessed that Jiangachen had hired them to sabotage my research and frame me for malpractice. The police moved immediately, arresting Jiangachen on charges of intentional destruction of property and malicious accusation. His bail was revoked on the spot and he was thrown back into the detention center, this time for good. When the news reached us, Qin Ran breathed a massive sigh of relief. Sister Zai, he's finally behind bars. He can't hurt us anymore. This feels so good. I looked out the window, my voice flat. This isn't the end. There was still someone else. Su Luoluo, his childhood sweetheart, the one he had handed the bouquet to after throwing away 5 years of our relationship. I wanted to see what kind of fatal blow this woman, whom he had protected at all costs, would deliver to him. The first major plot twist was about to be revealed. While Jiangachen was rotting in detention, his mother was bedridden and paralyzed, and his family assets were being auctioned off. No one was left to care for him. In his desperation, he pinned all his hopes on Su Luoluo. He believed she was his true love, his only light in the darkness. Before his arrest, he had secretly stashed 30 million renminbi in cash and some of Shengting Medical's most sensitive client data and trade secrets. He handed everything over to Su Luoluo, begging her to find the best lawyers, pull strings, and manage what remained of his wealth until his release. He even wrote her letters from jail, promising to marry her and give her everything the moment he was free. He had no idea that his white moonlight was the one sent to finish him off. Ever since Shengting Medical began its downward spiral, I had hired a private investigator to dig into Su Luoluo's background. Her appearance was too convenient. She had arrived right as the company was prepping for its IPO, instantly driving a wedge between Jiangachen and me, causing him to lose his core technology and team. It felt like a masterfully orchestrated conspiracy. After 2 months of digging, the investigator finally uncovered her true identity. The truth was more twisted than I had imagined. Su Luoluo wasn't a childhood sweetheart at all. Her name wasn't even Su. She was Zhong Ruishi, the younger sister of Zhong Hongbin, the chairman of Ruisi Medical Group and Jiangachen's biggest rival. Ruisi and Shengting had fought for dominance in the high-end private healthcare market for years, and Shengting had always come out on top. Zhong Hongbin had been looking for a way to crush Jiangachen for a long time, so he sent his sister, under the alias Su Luoluo, to work as Jiangachen's assistant as a corporate spy. Her mission was to sever the tie between Jiangachen and me, stripping him of his technological backbone, while simultaneously stealing client lists, trade secrets, financial data, and evidence of illegal operations. She had succeeded brilliantly. Not only did she make him dump me and lose his entire core medical team, but she funneled every piece of confidential data back to Ruisi Medical. Armed with that intel, Ruisi Medical poached Shengting's top clients and partners, dealing the company a killing blow. But she didn't stop there. She had secretly recorded every one of Jiangachen's illegal dealings, the cooked books, the insurance fraud, the malicious reports against me, and even the plot to destroy my lab. Every detail was captured. As for the 30 million renminbi he had entrusted to her, she had long since wired it to offshore accounts, leaving him without a cent. Now that he was in jail and her mission was over, she had already booked a flight to join her brother abroad. Even I had to marvel at the irony, for this woman Jiangachen had thrown away 5 years of our lives and destroyed his own career. In the end, his precious white moonlight was a spy sent to ruin him. It was a joke of cosmic proportions. I sent all the evidence anonymously to Jiangachen in the detention center and simultaneously leaked it to every major financial news outlet in the country. I wanted to see his reaction when the world came crashing down. The next day the internet exploded. Every financial headline exposed Su Luoluo's identity as a corporate spy, her collusion with Ruisi Medical, and the bank records of the 30 million she had embezzled from him. The hashtags #SuLuoluo corporate spy and #Jiangachen played trended at number 1. The mockery from netizens was relentless. OMG, the plot twist of the year. He dumped Dr. Lin for this woman, and she turns out to be a spy. I'm dying laughing. Talk about losing the house and the home. He lost the gold mine and his sweetheart was fake. He's so pathetic. Wait, no, he deserves it. He treated Dr. Lin like trash for her, and now he's been played like a fiddle. Karma is real. Su Luoluo is cold-blooded. She stole his data, ruined his company, and took every penny. He literally has nothing left. Inside the detention center, Jiangachen suffered a total mental breakdown after seeing the news and the evidence I sent. He couldn't accept that the woman he loved had been playing him from day one. He became hysterical, screaming and slamming his head against the wall until the guards had to restrain him. In the hospital, his mother heard the news. Her condition plummeted and she was moved to the ICU, never to wake again. By the time the news broke, Zhong Ruishi, the woman he knew as Su Luoluo, was already on a flight out of the country, vanished without a trace. She left behind a wreckage of a life and the secret recordings of Jiangachen's crimes. Those recordings were handed over to the police, becoming the key evidence to seal his fate. His sentence was about to get a lot longer. This first major twist shattered Jiangachen's soul. He had gone from a high-flying CEO to a broken, penniless prisoner with no family left. I watched it all with cold indifference. This was the path he chose when he chose to betray me. He should have foreseen this end. But what he didn't know was that his judgment day wasn't over. He thought he had only stolen my heart and my technology. He had no idea that from the very moment he first approached me, he was part of a much darker deception, a terrifying secret regarding the death of my parents. The second and third twists are coming. Everything he owes me, and everything he owes my parents, will be paid back in blood. Jiangachen's case moved into the prosecution phase in the detention center. His mental state flickered between catatonia and mania. Shengting Medical reached its final chapter. The court officially declared its bankruptcy. Every asset was seized and sold to pay off debts, compensate patients, and cover unpaid wages. The once multi-billion-dollar empire was reduced to a cautionary tale in the medical industry. While Jiangachen fell into ruin, I reached a new pinnacle in my life. My Lin Zai Heart Center had become the nation's premier cardiac surgical facility. The transcatheter mitral valve replacement, TMVR, technology one developed successfully cleared clinical transformation and received its registration certificate from the NMPA, marking its official nationwide rollout. This meant countless heart patients would no longer have to endure the agony of open-heart surgery. Furthermore, my national key clinical project achieved a major milestone. The artificial heart developed by our team successfully completed animal testing and entered the human clinical trial phase, breaking the long-term foreign monopoly in this field. In recognition of my contributions, the state officially approved the establishment of the National Clinical Research Center for Structural Heart Disease. I was appointed as the center director, backed by a 500 million renminbi research fund to build a headquarters in the Zhongjiang Science City, Shanghai. I intentionally scheduled the inauguration ceremony for the same day as the announcement of Shengting Medical's bankruptcy liquidation. I wanted Jiangachen to see that the woman he once looked down upon and abandoned was now standing at a height he could never hope to reach. From his prison cell, all he could do was watch me ascend to my peak. On the day of the inauguration, Zhongjiang Science City was a sea of flags and celebration. Top officials from the National Health Commission, the Ministry of Science and Technology, and the Shanghai municipal government attended the ribbon cutting. National media outlets like CCTV and People's Daily live-streamed the entire event to over 20 million viewers. During the ceremony, leaders praised my research and medical contributions, hailing me as a leader who would break foreign monopolies and drive China's healthcare forward. When it was my turn to speak, I stood on stage looking at the leaders, experts, and my team. I took a deep breath. The establishment of this center is not a finish line for me, but a new starting point. My team and I will remain true to our calling as healers, scaling the heights of medical science to protect every patient's life and ensure that China's cardiovascular technology stands at the pinnacle of the world. The hall erupted in thunderous applause. The livestream comments were flooded with praise. Director Lin is incredible. Director of a national research center at 28, this is what a true pillar of the nation looks like. Comparing Lin Ziyi to Jiang Chen is like comparing the heavens to the mud. He dumped her for a spy, and now she's a national figure while he's eating prison food. The irony, this is a real power woman story. She didn't sink after being betrayed, she rose and became a titan. So inspiring. After the ceremony, as I was posing for photos, a CCTV reporter approached me for a live interview. Director Lin, congratulations. Over the past year you've faced immense storms, betrayal, malicious reports, and framing. How did you overcome it all to achieve this? I smiled at the camera. First, I want to thank those who tried to hurt me. They taught me that a woman's value never comes from depending on someone else, but from her own professional expertise and the value she creates for society. The reporter followed up. What do you have to say to your ex-boyfriend Jiang Chen? His company, Shengting Medical, officially declared bankruptcy today. I looked into the lens, my gaze calm yet heavy with authority as I dropped the second major plot twist. Actually, there is one thing I have never shared publicly: the 30 million renminbi startup capital Jiang Chen used to found Shengting Medical was not his. It was the medical entrepreneurship fund left behind by my parents after their accidental death. The room went silent. The livestream chat froze for a split second before exploding. I continued, articulating every word clearly. My parents were titans of cardiac surgery in China and pioneers of private healthcare. In 2018, they died in a tragic car accident while traveling for a rural medical mission. They left behind a 30 million renminbi fund and a 70% stake in the hospital they founded. As the sole heir, that was my inheritance. However, Jiang Chen's father was my father's student. Since I was a student and still a minor at the time, he used the pretext of safekeeping my inheritance to swindle that 30 million and gave it to his son to start Shengting Medical. Everything Jiang Chen had, the medical licenses, the first round of financing, was built on the back of my parents' reputation, resources, and credentials. Even the land Shengting was built on was purchased by my parents. He approached me and dated me for one reason: to monopolize the inheritance and resources my parents left behind. He used my family's money to build his empire, enjoyed a life that belonged to me, and then betrayed and slandered me to try and destroy my career. I signaled the staff to project the evidence: death certificates, fund escrow agreements, bank statements of the initial 30 million transfer, and property deeds appeared on the giant screen and the live broadcast. The evidence was irrefutable. The crowd gasped. The livestream servers nearly crashed. Holy crap, a massive reversal. He didn't just break her heart, he stole her parents' blood money. He's a monster. I'm nauseous. He used her parents' legacy to start a business and then tried to ruin her. Absolutely soulless. No wonder he hated her so much. He was terrified she'd find out the truth and take everything back. I looked back at the camera. Today, I officially announced that I have filed a lawsuit to recover the 30 million renminbi in stolen inheritance plus 20 years of accrued interest and gains, totaling 180 million RMB. Furthermore, I am suing to reclaim the hospital shares and land ownership. Everything owned by Shengting Medical is, by law, my inheritance. The hall thundered with applause once more across the city at Shengting Medical's cold and lonely bankruptcy press conference. The lawyers and liquidators were watching my interview on a screen. They were paralyzed with shock. In the detention center, Jiang Chen watched the live stream on his lawyer's phone. Hearing the truth exposed to the entire nation, he clutched his chest and collapsed, suffering a breakdown so severe he had to be rushed to the prison hospital. He thought he had buried that secret forever. He never imagined I had the receipts all along. I won this battle completely. Everything he prided himself on, his capital, his connections, it all came from my parents. I gave it to him and now I was taking it all back. This was the ultimate slap in the face. After the interview, Jiu Yensi approached me with a bouquet of white roses. "Congratulations, Director Lin, you did it." I took the flowers, looking into his gentle eyes. He had been my silent protector through the storm, never overstepping, always respecting my strength. He had earned his place in my heart, but as the sun shone on us, I knew the end was not yet here. There was still a darker secret regarding my parents' car accident. The third major plot twist was coming, and it would be the killing blow. Following the interview, the public's rage was white-hot. Netizens swarmed official accounts demanding that the Jiang family be prosecuted for fraud. The court formally accepted my inheritance lawsuit, and the police opened a criminal investigation into the Jiangs for fraud and embezzlement. When Jiang woke up in the prison hospital and heard the news, he went insane. Knowing he was doomed, he decided to drag me down with him one last time from inside the detention center. He bribed an inmate to contact an outside lawyer and forged a mountain of evidence. He filed malicious reports with the Commission for Discipline Inspection, the Ministry of Science and Technology, and the Health Commission. He accused my National Research Center of embezzling funds, academic fraud, and falsifying clinical data. He even claimed I took bribes from patients. The reports initially caused a stir. The authorities were forced to form a joint task force to audit my project. Jiangachen's paid internet trolls tried to pivot the narrative, calling me a fraud who didn't deserve my position, but I had nothing to hide. Every cent of the funding was accounted for, and every piece of data was backed by verified medical records and patient follow-ups. I cooperated fully, handing over every ledger and report. After 2 weeks of rigorous auditing, the Joint Task Force issued an official statement. The investigation confirms that the National Clinical Research Center for Structural Heart Disease, led by Lin Ziyi, has managed funds strictly in accordance with regulations. All research data is authentic and valid. There is no evidence of embezzlement or academic fraud. The reports were found to be malicious and false. The statement added that the evidence of Jiangachen's malicious framing would be handed over to the police for further criminal charges. The moment the announcement went live, the trolls vanished. The public apologized to me, and their fury toward Jiang Ichen reached a new fever pitch. Jiangachen is truly insane. He's a criminal himself, yet he had the audacity to maliciously frame Dr. Lin, pure evil. Dr. Lin has nothing to hide. The audit results are clear as day. Jiangachen just got his face slapped again. Maliciously framing a national key researcher deserves the harshest penalty. Let him rot in jail. The Public Security Bureau soon released an official notice. Jiangachen was being investigated for malicious accusation. His already heavy sentence was set to increase. His final struggle, instead of dragging me down, had only added another crime to his record. He was in total despair, but he had no idea that a far greater bombshell was waiting for him. The day after the audit announcement, an elderly woman came to my office. Her name was Li Guilan, the head nurse of my parents' former hospital and their longtime colleague. After my parents passed away, she had resigned and moved back to her hometown, vanishing from sight. Now she had traveled 1,000 miles to Shanghai just to tell me the truth about the car accident that killed my parents 10 years ago. In my office, Nurse Li produced a sealed dashcam memory card from a decade ago, along with photos from the crash site and copies of the original police reports. With tear-filled eyes, she revealed the third and final plot twist. My parents' death was no accident. It was Jiangachen's father, Jiang Mingyuan, who had tampered with their car. He had cut the brake lines, causing the brakes to fail on a mountain road during a medical mission, sending their car plunging off a cliff. Jiang Mingyuan's motive was to seize my parents' medical fund, their hospital shares, and their industry resources, especially their patented prototype for minimally invasive heart bypass surgery. As my parents' student, Jiang Mingyuan had been involved in the research and wanted the technology for himself. He chose to murder his own mentors. After the crash, he staged the scene and bribed officials to rule it a mechanical failure. He then took my parents' research and gave it to Jiangachen, forming the technological foundation of Shengting Medical. And Jiangachen had known the truth from the very beginning. His entire 5-year relationship with me was a meticulously crafted lie. His goal was to keep me close so he could monopolize my inheritance and ensure I never discovered the truth. He treated me as a tool for the Jiang family's gain. Nurse Lee had suspected foul play back then and secretly kept the memory card. It contained footage of Jiang Mingyuan lurking around the car in the garage and the audio of my parents. Realizing the brakes had failed just before the crash. For 10 years, she had been threatened by Jiang Mingyuan, who vowed to kill her family if she spoke out. Now that Jiang Mingyuan was under police scrutiny and dying of cancer, she finally found the courage to seek justice for my parents. Listening to her, my blood turned to ice, my fingertips turned white, and my nails dug into my palms until they bled. The man I had loved for 5 years was the son of my parents' murderer, and he had known all along. He had even stood by my side at their graves every year, playing the part of the grieving, supportive partner. It was sickening. I took a deep breath, suppressed my burning hatred, and bowed deeply to Nurse Lee. "Thank you, Auntie Lee, thank you for keeping this evidence for so many years." I immediately went to the police. Given the gravity of the evidence, a special task force was formed to reopen the case, combining the dashcam footage, the original records, and new witness testimony. They confirmed that Jiang Mingyuan was guilty of intentional homicide. Jiang Mingyuan tried to flee to Southeast Asia with a forged passport and a bag full of cash, but he was intercepted at the border. Faced with the mountain of evidence, he confessed to everything: the murder, the theft of the research, and the inheritance fraud. He also admitted that Jiang was a full accomplice who had known the truth from the start. The news shattered Jiang in his cell. His father was facing a potential death sentence, and he himself was now being investigated as an accessory to murder. His mother passed away in the hospital, and the Jiang family name was utterly destroyed. I stood before my parents' tombstone and placed the official court notice on the cold stone. Tears finally fell. "Dad, Mom, do you see, they've been caught? I finally got justice for you." 6 months later, the Intermediate People's Court held a public trial. I sat in the plaintiff's seat, watching as the prosecution presented the complete chain of evidence: murder, fraud, securities fraud, insurance scams, and malicious framing. Nurse Lee took the stand, her testimony and the dashcam footage sealing their fate. After 3 days, the judge struck the gavel. The defendant, Jiang Mingyuan, is found guilty of intentional homicide and fraud. He is sentenced to death with a 2-year reprieve, deprived of political rights for life, and all personal property is confiscated. The defendant, Jiang is found guilty of being an accessory to intentional homicide, fraud, securities fraud, insurance scams, and malicious framing. He is sentenced to 18 years in prison and fined 100 million RMB. As the verdict was read, Jiang collapsed in his seat, his eyes hollow and lifeless. His life would now be defined by 18 years behind bars, paying for his crimes during the prime of his life. I finally reclaimed what was mine. The court ordered the return of my parents' inheritance, the hospital shares, and the land, totaling 230 million renminbi in assets and damages. My parents were posthumously awarded the title of People's Physicians by the state. On the day I received the final judgment, I donated the entire 230 million renminbi to a newly established public heart foundation named after my parents. The foundation provides free surgery and medical aid to children with congenital heart disease and impoverished patients. I wanted to ensure their legacy of healing lived on. That autumn, during the foundation's launch at the Great Hall of the People, I stood as the founder and addressed the crowd. My parents lived by the oath of a healer. Today, I continue their mission. I will dedicate my life to cardiovascular medicine, guarding every life I can. The applause was deafening. After the ceremony, Gu Yanci, who had been my rock through every storm, walked up to me. In front of everyone, he spoke from his heart. "Zai, from the first time I saw you, I was moved by your strength and your brilliance. Watching you rise from the ashes this past year, I know for certain you are the one I want to spend my life with. I don't want to just be your partner in business, I want to be by your side, supporting your dreams forever. Will you give me that chance?" Looking into his gentle, steady eyes, I smiled and reached out my hand. The hall erupted in cheers. I knew then that my life had finally turned a new page. The darkness was over, and a brilliant new chapter had begun. After the ceremony, I received a call from the prison. The correction officer informed me that Jiang had filed multiple requests to see me. He claimed he had more details about my parents' death and threatened to go on a hunger strike, even to end his life, if I refused to visit. After a long silence, I finally agreed. I wanted to see what else this man, who had wasted 5 years of my youth and murdered my parents, could possibly have to say. A week later, I arrived at the prison and met Jianga-chen in the visiting room. In just over a year, he had become unrecognizable. His hair was entirely white and he was gaunt, to the point of being skeletal. Dressed in a drab prison uniform, his eyes were clouded and his face was etched with deep wrinkles. Gone was the image of the elite, high-flying CEO. In his place sat a haggard, lifeless man. The moment I entered, he jerked his head up. A spark of light flickered in his eyes as he lunged toward the glass partition. His lips trembled and his voice was a ragged rasp. "Zai, you finally came to see me." I sat down and looked at him. My voice was flat, devoid of emotion. "You said you had something to tell me about my parents. What is it?" Tears instantly spilled from his eyes as he choked back a sob. "Zai, I was wrong. I truly know I was wrong now. My father forced me back then. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry to you and your parents. I regret it. I regret everything so much." Suddenly, he slid off his chair and knelt on the cold floor. Behind the thick glass, he kowtowed to me, crying uncontrollably. "Zai, I beg you, please forgive me. I know I'm a monster. I'm not human. I beg you, give me a letter of forgiveness. Help me plead for a reduced sentence. I don't want to spend the rest of my life in prison. I'm only 30. I don't want to be finished like this." Watching him kneel there, sobbing and snotting, I felt no pity, only a sense of profound absurdity. When he and his father murdered my parents and stole their legacy, why didn't he think of today when he handed the wedding bouquet to a spy and made me the laughingstock of the city? Why didn't he think of today when he slandered me online and tried to strip me of my medical license? Why didn't he think of today when he sent thugs to sabotage my lab and frame me for malpractice? Why didn't he think of today? And now he kneels here and asks for mercy. It's too late. I looked at him, smiled faintly and pulled out my phone. I hit play. From the speakers came the recording of his voice at our wedding right after he handed the bouquet to Su Luoluo. Luoluo was upset today. I was just comforting her. "It's just a bouquet for a younger sister. Don't overthink it." I tucked the phone away and met his eyes, my words sharp and clear. "Jianga-chen, when you told Midon to overthink it at our wedding, why didn't you think of today, when you and your father killed my parents and lied to me for 5 years? Why didn't he think of today? Not a single thing you've done is worth forgiving." He stared at me from the floor, his eyes filled with pure despair. "Zai, I really loved you back then. It was real. Please, give me one more chance." "Loved me?" I laughed, the sound dripping with irony. "Your love was conspiring with your father to murder my parents, stealing their inheritance, and deceiving me for 5 years. Your love was giving my wedding bouquet to another woman. Your love was dragging my name through the mud to destroy my life. Jianga-chen, your love is too cheap. I don't want it, and I certainly don't need it." I stood up, my gaze icy. "You want my forgiveness? Fine. When my parents come back to life, when the 5 years of youth you stole from me are returned, and when every sin you've committed is wiped clean, then and only then will I forgive you. Oh, by the way," I paused, smiling as I added one last thing. "The details about my parents you wanted to tell me, I assume it was this." I pulled my parents' original research notebook from my bag and pressed it against the glass. "This notebook, the one your father stole from my parents' office, it contains their life's work. I've taken it back. Its technology is now the core of a national research center, saving countless lives. You and your father spent your lives stealing, but in the end, you gained nothing and sent yourselves to prison. Isn't that ironic?" Jianga-chen's face went deathly pale. He slumped onto the floor, the last light in his eyes finally extinguished. I looked down at him one last time. "Jianga-chen, you're begging me?" "It's too late." I turned and walked out of the visiting room without looking back. Behind me, I heard his heart-wrenching wails and his screams of utter despair. None of it mattered to me anymore. Stepping out of the prison, the sunlight felt warm and golden on my skin. Jiu Yensi was leaning against his car, waiting. When he saw me, he smiled and opened his arms wide. I ran to him and threw myself into his embrace, a genuine smile on my face. He leaned down, pressed a tender kiss to my forehead, and whispered, "It's all over, let's go home." I nodded against his chest as the car drove away into the distance. I watched the scenery blur past. The old debts were settled. Those who betrayed me and harmed my parents had faced their reckoning. My parents' names had been cleared. My life was only just beginning. From now on, I would carry my team forward, honoring my parents' legacy and using my scalpel to protect the lives of my patients. I would make sure that China's medical technology stood at the pinnacle of the world.